Hello and welcome to the Film Angle. I'm Alex,
And I'm Kris.
and today we are going to be reviewing a few films, but I must say it has been rather hot recently. How have you been dealing with the heat, Chris?
I've been barely surviving. I think half of my body weight is still attached to the sofa.
Yeah, had to
Melted
peel
off of me.
myself. Yeah, peel yourself off a few times for sure. Just like it's been mad hot, and obviously like this is coming out a week after the heat wave where it hit 40
Yeah.
degrees in some places. But I don't know how you found it, but I struggle to find the motivation to just watch anything at times. It's mad how much the weather kind of dictates your watching habits or just completely shatters them.
Oh. Yeah, I start off the day with such energy, and then you come back from work. I got like a 45, 50 minute drive home, and my my aircon in my work and my car is basically useless. So you're just sweating the whole way home. Time you get through that front door, most days watching a movie is my idea of heaven. It's been my idea of hell for the last week, so it's been a bit of a game changer for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think as well, I don't know if you would say the same thing, but like Thor Love and Thunder has kind of just landed in the cinemas and nobody kind of wants to release around it. So unless you really want to go see Minions Rise of Gru, there's not much else going on right now. And I know I keep saying I'm going to see Elvis, but I do really need to see Elvis.
No, you're you're completely right actually, because barring Minions: The Rise of Gru, I think I've seen everything that the multiplex has to offer at the minute. So I'd only be going back for a rewatch. So there's nothing for me to actually go see at the minute. Um, yeah. So yeah, I think Elvis is definitely worth your time though, man. I mean, if you can still catch it on the big screen, definitely do, because I think it warrants it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna see if I can carve some time out this weekend. Maybe I'll see how it goes. I'll see how it goes. But I'm a busy man. I'm a busy
Not
man. I'm not gonna say.
no not looking likely. When Alex says, "Oh, I might do that," he's not going to do that.
Oh wow, that's so rude. I might just have to prove you wrong, just for that now. So
Prove me wrong, please.
yeah,
Yeah, so we're a little bit light on new releases. So we have managed to go back and watch some things that have been big over the last year that we didn't manage to catch up on. Right?
yeah.
Actually, no, we that's telling a lie. We did catch up on one new movie, and probably the wrong the wrong movie, if that's the right thing to say.
Well, we were messaging and we were like, it's always more interesting when we have watched the same films. So let's at least try. Like, what could we watch this week that's relatively topical?
Yeah,
And you suggested Persuasion, the adaptation of Jane Austen's novel of the
I
same
don't know.
name.
Topical is yeah, yeah, topical and a 19th century novel.
Yeah, but I mean, like topical in the way that it's just landed on Netflix.
Yeah, yeah.
Another kind of Netflix original doing its thing.
And we're both big fans of Dakota Johnson, and we kind of would watch anything that she would be in because you know big
Yeah,
fans of her movies.
and I was like at first I was like, oh man, a period drama, but then I got to kick myself sometimes and be like, period dramas are good. One of my favorite films is a period drama. I love Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I think it's one of the best films ever made. And technically
Yeah.
that's a period drama. So maybe it's just Jane Austen style
What
period
other period
dramas.
dramas have you seen?
Uh, Lady Macbeth was very good
With Florence Pugh?
with
Yeah,
Florence
good
Pugh.
movie.
That was
Which actually
brilliant.
has which shares an actor with this movie.
That being said, I'm only about to list off maybe because they're memorable, like good ones, like David
So you haven't seen
Copperfield.
like David Copperfield? Yeah, yeah, which is a bit more like has a modern twist sensibility, like this version of Persuasion does.
Yeah.
But like you haven't seen any of those. Like you haven't seen Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility. Have you managed to ever catch up with that, or the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice? They're great movies.
No, I haven't. I haven't. I'm sure I've seen some bad ones, which is why I've been like, oh, I don't really want to watch period drama. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being very narrow minded.
I
In
think
my
that's
thought.
kind of the reason why I said to pick Persuasion, because secretly I just really like giving you a really hard time. And I know maybe it's not. I thought maybe like, this is the last genre he'll want to watch. Let's make him watch a period drama.
Well, like you said, I like Dakota Johnson. I was interested to see what she had to do in this, but yeah, I would you say it was a good recommendation in the end, Chris, or or do you regret your
Hey,
decision?
hey, recommendation. You can't say recommendation.
It was you
That's
recommended we watch this film, okay?
you cannot tar me with the same brush as like to say I recommended it. We both went into it together. I think I knew that the reactions were pretty mixed. I think that's kind of initially what actually interested me about this project, this version of Persuasion, because I heard there were choices made. And I'm thinking, like, in my head, what can you really do wrong with a period drama? You know, especially one so well written as Jane Austen's. You know, the framework is already there for you to it's already been established, so you just got to make it look good. But I think it was the mixture of styles going for that Fleabag sensibility. I know everybody's saying that it's like Fleabag, but it really is. But it doesn't seem to fit here, and I think it feels forced, and you're trying to make humor and sensationalization out of scenarios that aren't really actually that interesting.
No,
I
no,
think
and
that's it.
I think it's unfair to tarnish the Fleabag nature of this show with Fleabag because Fleabag does it so well,
Oh,
and all this show does,
Fleabag's a masterpiece.
she just turns and narrates to the screen. You don't see her react to things so much looking at
Yes.
the screen,
Yeah.
and they do drop it a little. Like the first act is very heavy with I'm looking at the screen and I'm narrating to you what's happening. Like a lot of exposition at the start. I feel like they drop it near the end a little bit, like it's they rely on it less. But yeah, I
Yeah.
saw a lot of letterbox being reviews being like, I blame Phoebe Waller Bridge for this, even though she obviously had no
Oh no,
input
that's
at all with
ridiculous.
this.
No,
But I
no.
just think like, man, she did it so well. You just but I guess maybe it's the popularity of that method from Fleabag.
And also it's not she's not the first person to ever do it. It has been an
No.
established
That
form
was
of
Deadpool.
subgenre for a long time. Yeah, that was Deadpool. That was Ryan Gosling. No, Ryan
Reynolds.
Reynolds. I got Barbie on the brain. That's what it is.
Yeah, I
But
don't
no,
blame
she's
you.
not the first person to do it. I think people who just get so it's just the internet, isn't it? People get so passionate over things that should, spend your energy on something a little bit more useful. I usually tend to
Yeah.
think. But yeah, no, I think Dakota Johnson does a really good job of really trying. I think she is the centerpiece that really does hold it together. And I say hold it together very is a very loose term. She does her best here, and I think it's strained with the material. It's
Yeah.
hard because I haven't read Persuasion myself. I know the Austenites are really big fans of the book, and it's Jane Austen's last book before she passed away. I think it was
Okay.
published 6 months after her death, and it people say it has a bit more of a melancholy tone to it. It's a little bit more thoughtful than her previous work, was a little bit lighter, and so to have a lighter touch like this movie has on it seems to be
Hmm.
at odds with what the material is, and I think a lot of people feel alienated and betrayed by you know it's not a true representation of that book, and why are we sort of diluting something that actually has really good depth in it and turning it into
Yeah.
something that's just kind of afternoon Sunday fare?
Yeah, I can see that because when you actually think about what the themes are, there's a lot of like class kind of
Mm.
differences, lost loves,
Yeah,
reconciling,
time's a healer and all that sort of stuff.
times a
Yeah.
healer, yeah, all that kind of stuff. Like there's some heavy stuff, and I think they do attempt to try take it down a semi-heavy route. But yeah, you're right, it's a bit too light at times. Um, I also found like first of all, Dakota Johnson is really good in this, but she has a face that looks like she knows what emails are. Like she just, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
she
Like
looks
she
like
went
she
into
owns
a
an
time
iPhone.
machine.
Okay,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
her
Yeah,
face
hundred
is too
percent.
modern.
And I think we're so used to, if you've seen a lot of her movies, you're so used to hearing her hone just an American accent 100% of the time. And so whenever, as being a British person ourselves, when you're listening for the accent to come out, and it does
Yeah,
sometimes crack through, doesn't it? It doesn't always come across as authentic, but maybe that wouldn't affect the average viewer. I thought fundamentally it was a lot of the other characters were probably miscast. Cosmo Jarvis. I don't feel
who's
that
really who's
Dakota and
he's a
Cosmo
really
Jarvis.
good actor. He's been in some
He
really
he was
like
in Lady
interesting
Macbeth,
stuff.
wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in Lady Macbeth. There was another UK film that came out within the last year. I can't remember what it was called, but it was really good, and he played like a gang member. Oh, what was that called? But I just found like his chemistry with
Yeah.
Dakota Johnson, it just wasn't there. I was never rooting for the two of them to hook back up as the film kind of wanted to be. The UK film, the British film he was in, by the way, was called Calm with Horses, and that's
Okay.
a
I haven't
really
seen it.
really interesting film. So worth checking out. He's really good in that. I think you can get it on Netflix, and I don't think it's too long either. It's like a short little British crime film, but very well done.
Yeah, and also I think it's the side characters as well. They all seem it's all very quaint and very funny, and she has in laws that do little quirky things and have little relationships. But it's all we've seen this before in this genre, and again we're trying to make these uninteresting situations like as if we've never seen them before, but we have, and what it ends up being just a very sort of sleepy experience. We put a stately home in the background and some nicely lit greenery in the background, and you're supposed to have a good movie, but that's just not good enough here. And I feel like like I said, the source material was just kind of left in the background to the point. Like I said in my letterbox review, I felt like you could leave the movie for about 30 minutes without pausing it, come back, and you're probably exactly where you left off.
Yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree. I watched this like the you know on a Sunday as we were venturing into the heat wave at the very start, and I was really struggling by the end of the film. Just eyes were kind of heavy, and nothing was kind of gripping me, keeping me locked onto the film. So yeah, bit of a miss
Oh
by
dear,
Netflix.
it's a bit poopy.
Poopy poop.
It's a bit of a poopy poop.
Which is a shame because obviously there's some talented people involved. Um,
Of course there is.
but yeah, bit of a misfire. I don't know what went wrong here, but nothing interesting enough to keep me entertained. So, Chris, if you were to just off the spot now recommend me period dramas, which can take me out this slump where I've just seen one of the worst ones. What kind of period drama film should I be watching right now?
I think Sense and Sensibility is a fantastic film from Ang Lee and still one of his strongest with Emma Thompson, Alan Rickman, Hugh Grant, Kate Winslet. You know, it's that cast alone is really worth watching, and the dynamics at play there, especially a Rickman who plays this man. He's sort of fallen in love with Kate Winslet's character, and it's a real unrequited love going on there. And Rickman holds that so beautifully. He's able to play that really well as sort of a sort of like a scorned gargoyle of a man who's being ousted by Hugh Grant's version. She's a lot more infatuated with him, and we as viewers, it's a classic thing with Pride and Prejudice too, where we want the main female protagonist to go with the man we want to her to go with, and we know that's right for her, but she has to go through some frogs or maybe some men who aren't really meant for them on the way. So that's a very powerful film. I would also really recommend. Have you ever heard of Far from the Madding Crowd?
Yep, heard of it, not seen it.
Yeah, it's a Thomas Hardy novel, but there's a really good film adaptation that starred Carey Mulligan, who I know you're a big fan of.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, no, that was a really handsomely made movie. Michael Sheen also plays opposite her, and it has a bit more of a dangerous, rugged nature to that movie, which is more in keeping with Thomas Hardy sort of movies. Yeah, fantastic. The adaptation of Jane Eyre, that starred Michael Fassbender and Mia Wasikowska is really strong as well. Has a bit more of a gothic feel, which you tend to get with Bronte novels. So yeah, those are a few recommendations I can throw off the top of my head. It's definitely a genre I wouldn't get turned off by this movie because I really do love period dramas, and I do think there's a way to make them beautiful. I think we watched Little Women
Oh
2019
yeah, Little Women was
was a
excellent.
stunning movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
how can we forget about that? Yeah, so you can do it right, and that had a little bit of a modern edge to it as well.
Yeah, it definitely did. It definitely did. And Florence Pugh again.
Yeah, it seems like she's got a streak at the minute.
Definitely.
Well, maybe not Black Widow. I haven't seen Black Widow.
Yeah, but she's the best thing about Black Widow. So.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, we've got loads more coming from her anyways. So Hollywood's doubled down on her.
Oh,
We
haven't
kind
they
of
just?
early days. Yeah, yeah. I mean, even from Lady Macbeth days, like you and I were saying, like this actress is going to go a long way, and so she has. So yeah. So yeah, there's plenty to enjoy from the genre. I just think this one was a little bit of a bummer and a bit of a downslope, but don't let that turn you off. Right, because I'm a little bit on a bummer from talking about Persuasion. Watching that movie was a bummer. Talking about that movie is a bummer. So lift my spirits, Alex. I heard you've been watching Michael Bay's newest movie, which is the opposite to Quint and Quiet, isn't it? It's probably if it's Michael Bay, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Though maybe slightly tame for a Michael Bay film. Um,
Real? What is that? Well, it was only like 100 explosions as opposed to 3,000.
there's just maybe a little bit more focus, but yeah, there's definitely some explosions. But yeah, there's I think you could probably count the amount of explosions on two hands. Uh,
On two octopuses, yeah.
on two octopuses. Yeah, no, that's more of a Transformers film, which this is not. But it's very interesting, and he's got a good cast to balance it out. So basically, Jake Gyllenhaal is a kind of car thief, bit of a gangster mobster dude, definitely involved in the criminal world, and is about to pull off a heist on a bank, which has all been planned out, ready to go. And he just needs his brother to help him out, who's played by Yahya Abdul Mateen II, one of the coolest names in the
Yeah.
business. Who is
And he's getting
an
a lot of work now, too.
Oh, he's so good, man. He's so good. Like
Yeah.
Aquaman, he's good. We like Aquaman. And then but
Yeah.
like seeing him in Watchmen, uh I'm trying to think what else now. He was in Us, Trial of Chicago 7,
Yeah.
Matrix, obviously. How could I forget
Candyman.
the latest Matrix, Candyman? Yeah, he's
Yeah.
brilliant. Another kind of rising star. So he's like a veteran who needs money to help pay for his wife's medical bills. So he kind of turns up on the day. It's a bit weird. He like turns up on the day and he's like, "Oh, you help me out." And Jake Gyllenhaal's like, "I'm about to do this heist. Why don't you come help me?" Um, anyway, for
Okay.
a bunch of different reasons, the heist doesn't go as planned, and Yahya Abdul Mateen II shoots a policeman, um, which is kind of to protect his brother. But you know, you kill a policeman, you get a life sentence. So basically, the idea is we need to keep this guy alive and escape. They they hijacked
Yeah.
an ambulance which the policeman's in, and therefore they have to kind of get away from the police, keep keep the policeman alive. There's a paramedic on board, and she is basically a hostage and has been tasked with keeping the policeman alive as well. And it's just
Hmm.
from about 20-30 minutes into the film, it's just one massive chase movie with the police after the ambulance and having to deal with all the kind of like how far can we go and trying to stop them because the policeman's on board. If the policeman dies, can we just go all guns out and kill these guys? And then obviously Jake Gyllenhaal and Yahya Abdul Mateen II have to figure out how do we get away from this and not get a life sentence at least for what we've done.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually very entertaining. It's ridiculously stupid at points, which you expect from Michael Bay,
I mean,
but
that's
like
to be. Yeah. Yeah.
it's it's got a whole lot more focus and it's quite interesting once
I've
you
heard from a
are
lot of people that it's pretty solid.
yeah, once you get around the rules and of the world of it being a bit ridiculous, you kind of like, I'm entertained. I'm thrilled right now. I want to see how they're going to get away with this, if they're going to get
Uh huh.
away with this. And yeah, you're kind of very invested with everything that's going on. Brings in oddball side characters every now and then, as Michael Bay does. And whoever decided to match Michael Bay with drone photography or cinematography is an absolute
Yeah, I've
genius
heard about
because
this.
some of the drone shots are incredible. Yeah, there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of just kind of like spinning down a building and then just cutting away, which gets a little bit annoying. You kind of like want them to have a little bit more confidence in the drones at points. but when they
Yeah.
do in some of the bigger set pieces, absolutely stunning. Looks brilliant. So yeah, if you want a fun time on a Friday night, Saturday night, sit down, couple of beers, watch Ambulance. You might not come away thinking it's the best film ever made, but you will come away feeling pretty entertained, I think.
Is it like on the level of like a high note movie? Like it's so idiotic that it's kind of fun, or is it kind of teeter the line of being both really competent and really well made movie as well as stupid, or is there where does it sort of lie in between that sort of vein?
I think, like you said, it walks the line. There are a few moments in it where I was just laughing at like, oh, that is so
The
stupid. Like,
choices,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, that is so stupid. What do you want us? How are you making us suspend our disbelief for this? And then, but yeah, there are other moments where you're like, oh, how are they going to get out of this one? So yeah, it's not so bad. It's funny, but it's not so good that it's a masterpiece either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I'm just like looking at random clips here, and it does look really well shot, and some of the editing looks really fun. It looks really manic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be a lot of fun. I think yeah, there is room for a good Michael Bay movie. I mean, I'm never really been a big fan of his. I don't really think there's actually a movie of his I've seen yet that really has enchanted me or really I've really enjoyed. So Ambulance might be the first. So I might give that a little check out.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. I can't think of a Michael Bay film I enjoyed. Maybe the first
Yeah, I'm
Transformers
thinking
film.
like
Um,
yeah, the first Transformers isn't too bad. Yeah, the rest of them, obviously, especially Revenge of the Fallen, was really hard work. Thanks very much for sharing that, Alex. I think I'll take time to check it out. It's been on my watch list, and yeah, I really want to be persuaded. I think there is definitely a fun Michael Bay movie to be made. So, if anyone's going to be the one, it's going to be Ambulance. So, I'll definitely check that out. A film that switched tones a little bit here again because this was one movie that we both caught up with as well as Persuasion. Um, we're talking about Flea, which was a really big Oscar contender this year for both for animated film and for best documentary. And we were really excited whenever that dropped onto Disney Plus. So we were both talking, and we thought no better time than now to catch up on this pretty interesting film, right?
yeah, and it dropped with like no fanfare, which I'm surprised at for an Oscar-nominated film on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah,
There wasn't even on
I
their
had to surf through it. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't even on their main screen. I remember just heading on there, looking through Disney Star, as it is over here, which is the kind of
Yes.
more adult version, which I guess maybe is like parts of Hulu in the States. And yeah, and
Yeah.
then it
Yeah.
popped
It's
up on
Hulu.
the
Yeah.
recently added, and I was like, well, come on, I wanted to see this film, so yeah, I let you know, and we both gave it a watch.
Yeah, full credit to you. You let me know about that. I was really excited to catch up on it. Yeah, it's a very powerful, moving story. Obviously the names of the characters are changed for for reasons of respect for the real people, and the animated style is used as a sort of a tableau and a sort of a very unique style to tell a very bleak story in a in a way that's sort of like it's almost reminds me of an Iso Takahata movie, something like The Princess Kaguya or
I thought it reminded me of like children's books, like
that's a very good way of putting it.
very kind of um like
Very
slightly
subtle.
minimalist. It reminded me of like
Mm,
old children's books that maybe we grew up with. That kind of style of art where it's not where it's going for something real but not being
mm.
super detailed about it, and there's obviously a stylized element to that as well. Not like the other
Yeah,
film that kind of came out this year that's very much a it's not a documentary, but kind of feels in that way, was Apollo 10 and a half. And it's not that
yes, yeah,
style. Apollo 10 and a half was very cartoony and very obviously rotoscoped and bright and colorful. But then again, it was a lighter story, should we say, than Flea.
oh yeah, 100%. And yeah, it felt very tasteful to choose this style to tell such a hard pressing story to sort of give the audience a bit of a distance from it.
Yeah.
I feel was, and then obviously intermittently it would come back with real footage, archive footage from around the time period to kind of bring it back home again. So there was a real, just the right amount of detachment and involvement, just to so you could really emotionally get involved here. And yeah, I thought that was very powerful.
Yeah.
Many shades and colors. It was a beautiful way to tell the story.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's interesting because it takes on many different forms. Obviously, the refugee story, that one that is maybe somewhat similar to things we've seen on the news previously, but then also the kind of coming of age as a teenager during that time, um,
Yeah.
the element of coming out as a gay man and how that affects kind of his life as well, or and and also the kind of secrets. It's very much apparent near the latter half of the film that this is the first time he's told the whole story,
Yeah,
and
and it's
all the
very
facts
painful
that
for
go
him.
with it because of the lies that he's had to tell to get to different places, uh, whilst being trafficked. Essentially, obviously he's on the run from a war ridden Afghanistan, but then where he goes from there is kind of the difficult place, and kind of reconnecting with his family and how they figure that all out. It's really, really powerful. And obviously, like you said, those real the snippets of real footage snap you out of any idea that the animation had, that kind of, because the animation draws you into this idea that it's like, oh, a really nice animated film, and it's kind of like dreamlike in a way, or very like fuzzy and hazy as you're going
Mhm.
through memories and stuff like that. And then the real footage snaps you out and goes,
Yes.
oh yeah, it's a documentary. This guy is real. His story is real, and
Hmm.
bloody hell, you know what I mean? Just like the fact that he had to go through so much, and kind of
Yeah,
is
and
mad.
I
And
do
obviously
like
this
the
was back in the
attempts.
80s, but it kind of
Hmm.
very much
And the '90s as well. Yeah.
still very
Um.
raw story for today's refugees.
Oh yeah, because it's something we're seeing still every day. It's nothing new. I mean, yeah, especially in the Middle East and Afghanistan today, there's still all these terrible things happening, and human trafficking is something we see on the news on a daily occurrence. So it's really when you're really faced with it in this movie on a really human level, it really it's hard to sort of veer away, and you feel so helpless when you're watching it on screen. There are some horrible accounts of human exploitation in this, from police exploiting members of public for money. Um, they're, from the traffickers themselves who are being paid, but putting these people in ridiculous situations. I mean, there's one point in the movie where they're trekking through the forest in the middle of the night to find this little tiny boat that they finally get to at the end of their journey, that they have to travel from across the Baltic Sea to get to Sweden, which is a 2 day journey. And the boat starts leaking in, and everyone's huddled in the bottom of this boat in pitch black. It's a horrible experience. It made me feel physically almost sick to my stomach to
Yeah,
even listen and hear the noises of that small little tin container getting crashed with the waves, and all these old vulnerable and young little children and everything. It's horrible. I mean, it really brings home how privileged we are and how removed we are, and we can never know how how miserable an experience that can be. And to come out the other end of that as a fully formed wonderful person telling a story like this is so admirable.
yeah,
And that's what I really came out with this film.
yeah. For me, obviously came out with a lot of the same emotions, but I also felt a kind of anger that
Of course.
that this film won't get the audience that needs it, because obviously there's an element of, you and I, Chris, are relatively empathetic human beings, and we can understand that people
Yeah.
taking dangerous routes to get to certain countries, escaping, war and death and all kinds of horrible things. Like these people, these human beings
Mm,
are desperate, and they are just like you and me, and have all the same kind of feelings and emotions, and to an extent like childhoods, and kind of interests and hobbies, all these kind of things which are showcased in the start. But yeah, you just think like, all right, it's good it's on Disney Plus, but you've released it with no fanfare. And at the end of the day, you need
Yeah.
to show this to the people that don't see these people as human beings. They just see them as immigrants, and they need to be sent back. And they, what are they doing over here, and all this kind of stuff. Like,
Oh, yeah. You're
these
preaching.
need to
I
be said to
understand.
people
You're
who aren't empathetic. And I was just kind of upset that, like, yeah, I like this film, but you are preaching to the choir here, and
yes.
you need, maybe it's my, maybe it's our duty as people who've seen it to share it with people who need to see it. I don't know, but that's sometimes more difficult.
No, but you're completely right. I mean, it's hard to see. It's hard to see any person, no matter what side of the fence they are, to be if they were to really spend the time to watch a movie like this and be faced with such a human story. You have to put contextualize things. Do you think people would really would risk going on little dinghies across oceans and seas, or being stuck in containers for days and days and days without food or water if they weren't desperate? I mean, I mean, be real here. I mean, if they're escaping that to risk their lives, then who are we to judge?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, I was left, yeah,
Uh,
left feeling a whole flurry of emotions at the end of it, like sadness and happiness to an
oh,
extent that our main character had found some kind of life for himself, and
mhm.
kind of his come to terms with his sexuality and stuff.
Oh, of course. I was exactly, and I really like the little clever attempts in the movie at like sort of even though it's animated. There's attempts at realism here. There's employing the use of like making a cartoon version of Amin like adjust his position for the camera at one point. Like the director talks to him, and it's like we could have simply it being done in animation, but it really helps you like centers you in. Oh, okay, this is a real story here. I really liked like those little touches, little flourishes really heighten the emotional weight. Like as when Amin being interrogated by the immigration officers, he is like depicted in like outline only in the animated style, like not fully a person. So it's gently reminding you like how the immigration officers don't really see Amin as an individual like we are. I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, it's a very powerful film, and it's really well done. Like, the animation is such
Hmm.
an interesting and unique concept, because it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, this probably would have worked as a just straight up uh, documentary with some kind of archival footage. Sure, it probably would have worked
Or
really
even a
well as a
straight up
podcast
dramatized movie.
or a dramatized movie. Yeah, it could have worked as a
Yeah.
podcast in the way that, like, the actual story itself is fascinating, but there's something about the animation that kind of just um brings you closer to the character, and or not character, brings you closer to the person, and kind of really kind of helps you visualize his memories. And I just thought it was really unique way of kind of mixing animation with documentary and creating this kind of unique
Hmm.
film. Um, yeah,
100%.
worth
It
watching.
universalizes it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, go and show it to watch it yourself, and if you like it, go and show it to all your mates and family and friends who need to see it. We haven't watched that much this week, Chris, and obviously
Can you tell?
the heat has played a massive part in that, I think. So we will say this might be one of the more shorter episodes of the film angle, but I think it's worth saying if you're going to watch anything this weekend, watch Flea and skip Persuasion, wouldn't you say?
Persuasion, I mean, like, maybe show your grandmother, and then she might be like, what the hell is this
Yeah,
shit?
she'd be like, what's a 10? Oh, I'd never trust a
Yes.
10, darling.
Why does she keep looking at the camera? She's a terrible actress.
Did somebody just say daddy?
This is not the book I remember.
I don't remember the line, daddy's broke.
So yeah, maybe skip Persuasion. It's not top tier, not top tier, but Flea definitely. Yeah, we got lots of things to catch up with. I'm planning to like, I've got my sister's wedding this weekend, but I don't care. I'm planning to squeeze in loads more to make up for it. I feel it's
You
when
gotta
you have a
shout out
week
your
of not
sister
really
now.
watching.
You gotta shout her out.
Shout out to my sister Becky. She is getting married this weekend
Two. Who's
to
she
her
get married
lovely
to?
fiance. to her lovely fiance, Lloyd, who is, they're both very deserving of each other, and I wish
Yeah.
them all the best
Think,
happiness. So I'm really looking forward to sending them off on the weekend.
there you go. And they should be married by the time everybody listens to this. Fingers crossed. So, congrats.
Abs-
Congrats to the newlyweds.
Absolutely. If nothing goes disastrously wrong, fingers crossed. Yeah, Lloyd might come to his senses.
Oh, shots
Yeah,
fired.
he might not want to marry into a crazy family.
Shots fired indeed.
Shots fired to my family. Yeah, so we're planning to come back with a vengeance next week, right, Alex? We're gonna have lots to talk about. We're gonna shake things up, and people will not know what hit them.
Yeah, I'm going to try watching a few more films.
That's a lot of pressure.
If that's what you say. Obviously, so at the time of recording, we got The Grey Man coming out soon. Action film directed by the Russo brothers with Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling. That's a whole lot of
Yeah,
hot
I'm gonna.
in that film.
You had me at Ryan Gosling and Russell Brothers. I am there for it.
There you go. So that'll be interesting. Have you listened to Quentin Tarantino's podcast, Chris? He's entered the podcast game, and I feel like as fellow podcasters, we should maybe just give him a shout out, give him a little hand up.
Yeah.
Since
He's
we've
a
been
little
doing this
guy. He needs help.
yeah, we've been doing this for 22 episodes, and he's just on his first. So we'll just give his little podcast a shout out called the Video Archives. But yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard of Quentin Tarantino. He probably needs all the help he can get. But the first episode of his podcast came out and introduced us to two films that I'd never heard of. So I'm going to try catch up with those. So maybe we can chat about those.
That's a good shout out, but like in all seriousness, he has been like teasing that he was going to be doing like a podcast for some time, and I didn't know that it actually finally dropped. So thanks for reminding me, because I will check up on that and catch up with those movies that he's mentioned too. I mean, who doesn't want to hear Tarantino talk movies? So definitely there for
Exactly.
that. But we should be promoting another podcast. Ours needs all the help it can get.
Well, Tarantino, if you're listening, because you've been doing your research on film podcasts, and you somehow came across us, and you want to join us for a chat, then feel free to do so.
Yeah, he's signing a movie deal with us right now to the making of the film angle. That's actually the working title for the minute. It's not that catchy, but we're working on it at the minute.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
shout out to our
boy. Say
boy.
that though. You shouldn't say that, because obviously he wants to announce his final film, which is called The Making of the Film Angle, at Venice later this year. So yeah.
Well, now you've told everyone.
Oh,
terrible bit.
Terrible bit. But yeah, so that's interesting. And I recently caught up with a film that's on Mubi called Happening, which is very good. So Chris, you're going to catch up with that, and then we can discuss that a little bit next week. So if you've got a Mubi subscription, very much worth watching. Despite it being set in the 60s France, it's quite topical to today's kind of stuff going on, especially in the States.
I think everything is relevant to everything going on at the minute, isn't it? Everything that could possibly go wrong on a planet is going on our planet at the minute. I mean, where do we start? People are wondering what you're actually referring to at the minute.
So
is it forest fires? Is it elections?
I feel like I was like teasing something special, but the film is about abortion, so take that as you will.
That's going on too.
Yeah. So if you're not in the mood for an abortion film, don't watch it, because who's in the mood? Never mind, cut that bit. Nobody's ever in the mood for an abortion film. But it is well done.
Your dad comes back from a big business meeting at 6 o'clock at night. He loosens his tie and like, Dad, I want to show you this abortion movie, and it's in French.
It's set in the 60s.
Yeah, I'll get the hot chocolate going.
It's in letterbox format.
What? I thought it was an Academy ratio.
Wait, which one's Academy? Is the Square Academy or
Square is Academy?
Oh, sorry, it's an Academy ratio.
Is it?
It's Academy.
Like Wizard of Oz.
And I went to film school.
Fuck all that did for you.
So much debt.
Hey, it got you to where you are today. President of the Film Angle. Anyway,
Yeah. CEO.
if you didn't go on that journey, you would not have maybe landed in Toys R Us. You would not have met me, and you wouldn't have sunk to my level, and you'd probably ultimately in a higher place.
Yeah, so yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, I don't know how to say that. No, I'd much rather be doing this
And this is
podcast with
official.
you than anything else, Chris. Sounds all good.
Thanks, buddy. And if you managed to make it to the end of this episode, congratulations. You've just listened to the worst episode of the Film Angle ever.
I thought
We will try better next time.
I thought that was the card counter episode. Nobody seemed to want to watch that one. Listen to it.
This is a movie that doesn't exist to most people, I think.
There is that.
So, yeah, that goes it for the worst episode of the Film Angle to date.
Whoa.
Thank you guys very. No, I'm gonna say it. This is definitely our worst episode, and I'm not afraid to say it on air. So thank you guys very much for listening. You gotta be self-aware, or else they come at you, Alex. You gotta cover your back in these things.
I'd still give it a solid
thank you
3
guys.
out of 5.
So it's better than Persuasion, anyway. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Listen to this episode over Persuasion.
I'm trying to say goodbye. I'm trying to end this catastrophe. So, guys, thank you very much for listening to this episode of The Film Angle. As always, please feel free to follow us on Instagram. We are most active on, as well as follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts from. But for now, this has been The Film Angle, and I am Chris.
And I'm Alex.
Bye-bye.